Hi, greetings, and a warm welcome to all of you to the launch of Hackcellence Fest. We've all gathered here virtually to get the ball rolling for the first of the kind pioneering event straddling 26 countries across the Middle East, all of Africa, and India. This initiative is pioneered by Toshiba and Kioxia, enhanced by Middlesex University Dubai, and conceptualized and energized by ISD Global. Thank you all for your presence. We very much appreciate it. Just a bit of event hygiene before we begin. This event will last for a little over an hour. I request you all to keep your mics on mute and feel free to type in any questions that you have in the chat on the right towards the end of the event. For all the attendees that are attending from the media community, note that press notes will be sent out to you after the end of this session. Mr. Santosh, Varghese, Chancellor Cedwyn, Fernandez. We have senior leadership from both Toshiba Gulf FZE and Middlesex University Dubai, who will be talking an inspiration of the Hackcellence Fest. Apart from them, we also have top-of-the-line thinkers and entrepreneurs like Dr. Mr. Thomas Kolster and Mr. Ivan Fernandez, who will be sharing a little bit about their work, their entrepreneurial journey, and how they feel so close to this initiative. So without any further ado, may I please request Mr. Santosh Varghese to come forth and inspire our audience. The stage is all yours.
Yeah, do I need to speak?
Okay. Mr. Santosh, you can please.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone, or I should rather address everyone today as the future makers. Good afternoon, future makers. It's been an exciting week, starting off this Sunday with that marathon five-setter French Open finals between Novak Djokovic and Tsitsipas. That was an amazing match. And following that on Monday, that amazing goal in Euro 2021 from Patrick Schick during the Czechoslovakia and Scotland match could be billed as the best goal in the history of football. It was almost a pointed shoot from the midfield. And these kind of sporting events have created a positivity mindset and an optimism back to the world that was negatively impacted with uncertainties in 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Though it's still important to adhere to the COVID protocols and cautions, we at Toshiba, Kioxia, ISD, and Middlesex decided to ride on this positivity wave to create another great initiative that's being launched this afternoon. The Hackcellence Fest, Hackathon with Excellence. It's the Davos for students, a platform that will promote curiosity, creativity, and collaboration. I'm told today we have participants from 30+ countries across Middle East, Africa, and India. Over 450 registration as of this morning. That's something amazing. Maybe a couple of decades back, such kind of connectivity across the globe, we could have only visualized in a serial like Star Wars. But today, this is happening in reality. People connecting from different parts of Middle East, across the African continent, across the subcontinent, everybody is in a connected world. Joining me today for this event from Toshiba is Mr. Satoshi Kawada, who is a Managing Director and Corporate Representative for MENA region, Head of Product and Business Planning, Baston James, Product and Strategic Planning Manager, Atif Ansari, Jose Rajan, who heads the Retail, and Technical Manager, Zishan Ali. Toshiba needs no introduction. It's been a leading innovation for many long years. The journey of Toshiba started 148 years ago. That traces back its root to 1873, when Japan's Ministry of Engineering commissioned the founder, Hisake Tanaka, to develop the telegraphic equipment. That started Tanaka Engineering Works, one of the forerunners of Toshiba. Between 1873 and 1939, there were a lot of mergers and name changes. And then it finally, in 1939, became Tokyo Shibaru Denki. Well, maybe it was not a very popular name. It was nicknamed as Toshiba. And in 1984, Toshiba became a permanent name, a well-known brand known for its innovation and precision engineering. Toshiba's DNA is of innovation, invention, and precision engineering that has ensured Toshiba developed numerous pioneering electric and electronic products that were not just first in Japan, but first in the world. Well known among them is the first laptop, which Toshiba launched in 1985, the first NAND flash memory in 1987, which all these memories today are found in smartphones, in any gadgets. That's where all the memories are, all the data are stored in. The 3D manufacturing in NAND flash memory in 2007. The 3D without glasses on TVs and notebooks, notebook PC in 2010. And most recently, we're making great strides in quantum physics with its quantum key distribution that will secure the world's communication. The passion is on for many more new innovation. As for the global human capital trends for 2020 from Deloitte, it calls upon organization to embrace three attributes: purpose, potential, and perspective. An organization just doesn't talk about its purpose, but embeds meaning into every aspect of work every day. An organization that's designed and organized to maximize what humans are capable of, thinking, creating, and doing in a world of tomorrow, adding value for a world of tomorrow. Perspective, an organization that encourages and embraces a future orientation, asking not just to optimize for today, but how to create a value for tomorrow. We at Toshiba have an unwavering drive to make and do things that lead to a better world, both today and for the generations to come. Always being committed to people, committed to the future. At Toshiba, we turn on the promise of a new day. So how did this Hackcellence evolve? Consider the following trends. 80 million jobs, new jobs, will be created in the next 5 years. 50 million old jobs will be extinct. That's the jobs done by our parents or grandparents will all be vanished, and that will be taken over by the bots or the robots. 165 zettabytes of data that will be produced within 2025 and need to be stored and analyzed for better decision making across businesses, across various industries. 5 billion gadgets will be connected to the internet. Anything and everything is fueled by IoT. It's going to be a connected world. Digital therapeutics, digital humanism will be the way forward in combating pandemics, epidemics, and finding solutions to medical problems, which has always been challenging segment for us. Edge computing and cloud computing will be the way forward. Toshiba has been pioneers in many of these technologies that fuel disruptions. That will change the way we work and live moving ahead. A brainstorming session with ISD Global, who have actually conceptualized this Hackcellence, we decided to create a Davos for the students, basically the future makers. A Davos, a platform where school and university students across Middle East region, in Africa and India can collaborate with among themselves to create a better solutions for the world. We signed an MOU with a leading university, Middlesex University Dubai campus, who will be providing us all the backend support in terms of the tools and the expertise in various digital domains like AI, robotics, AR, edge computing, and many more. So Hackcellence is not just another innovation, competition, or a pitch challenge. It's different from the numerous hackathon that takes place everywhere and every year. Starting from the launch today until the grand finale in October 16th, we will be offering seminars, training that will be triggering the curiosity and creativity among the student community. And that ability will help them to convert the pain points to gain points that can disrupt the world in the way we live and work. We could see many more new Ubers and Airbnbs and many of those disruptors in many industries coming out of this Hackcellence competition. Together with academicians, business leaders, thinkers, let's do our part to nurture young minds and build the foundation for a better digital tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Santosh, for outlining and offering a helicopter view on this initiative. We are now joined by Dr. Cedwyn Fernandes, who is Vice Chancellor of Middlesex University Dubai and Director of University, to say a few words.
Good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome from Middlesex University Dubai. Thank you, Toshiba, Kioxia, and ISD Global for giving Middlesex University the opportunity to partner in something which is within our DNA, to find hacks and solutions to solve real life problems. I mean, I remember last March, we got an email somewhere on March 4th, which said, no more classes in person. You all have to, within 3 days, go and do your classes online. And for those of you who are familiar with the UAE, the VoIPs were blocked. It was not something which was easy. Those of you who are familiar with the educational regulations, distance learning was not encouraged and in fact not recognized. And we had to take 1,200 live sessions, classes online in 3 days. We didn't have the technology. Our lecturers did not have the understanding of teaching online because online was just a very passive activity where you posted your presentations and learning resources and stuff like that. But online to do this was something which was unique, and it was great that we put a task force together of 4 of our topmost IT brains among the faculty and our staff, and I told them, give me a solution. I mean, like, okay, whatever is the challenges they are there, we need to work around it. And within 3 days, we went with 1,000 classes online, and we ensured that learning never stopped. Our students graduated, and now, of course, after a year, it's become normal. And so, but on those 3, last year we were just wondering. I also, I'm so encouraged by the youth in this world, the students in this world. The pandemic, especially in my country, India, the second wave is a huge challenge. But who were the ones who hacked it and provided whatever solutions that was possible within the domain? It was all students, and using technology to make sure that that in whatever way, in whatever area, they can contribute and really solving real life problems. And the future, as we know, it belongs to the youth, and they have always come out with flying colors. At Middlesex, we are the largest international campus in the region and one of the largest UK university branch campuses anywhere in the world. We have 3,800 students, and just 2 days ago, we announced opening of another campus within the city of Dubai. We are currently at Dubai Knowledge Park. We'll also be at Dubai International Academic City. We have 70 programs across foundation, undergraduate, postgraduate. The main thing that binds all these programs is not so much the discipline content, because as everybody asks us, what will my daughter, what is the future of work? What are you training my daughter or my son to in the future? And I always tell them, yes, we do teach concepts which are current now, but the most important thing we teach is them to be lifelong learners, how to constantly upgrade their knowledge, how to constantly improve their skills, and to face different challenges as we come along. And that's why, at Middlesex, it is about creativity, it's about critical thinking skills. And that's why I like the concept about this, the Hackcellence. I mean, the regulations are guidelines, but finally it's up to you. What do you want? How do you want to solve it? And and does not restrict your mind and the challenges which you have. So I would really say that at Middlesex University, being in the dynamic city of Dubai, which is constantly innovating, constantly doing how to solve real life issues. Middlesex University has the MDX Accelerator, which is an entrepreneurship hub. It also, is part of the university entrepreneurship program with the Dubai Future Foundation, and many opportunities for students, who are going to be the future entrepreneurs in the world. Because I think in that is the future, rather than just being employees. A lot of people will become entrepreneurs. So I would like to really thank my team at Middlesex University, headed by Dr. Femida Hussain, who's the heart of Middlesex University Computer Engineering and Information Systems. Dr. Samir Kishore, one of the leading lights in the world in robotics and AI, and Mr. Judy, who has been the heart of our robotics program at Middlesex University. And we are really, really proud that we can contribute to this excellent initiative, and thank all our partners, and welcome all of you to Middlesex University Dubai. Whenever it is possible for you to visit, we are on campus since last June, and we follow all the protocols. So I really look forward to welcoming all of you, and wish you, especially the students, all the best. The world is yours. What are you going to do with it? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fernandez, for sharing the enhancement role that Middlesex University is going to be playing in Hackcellence Fest. Just a reminder for all the audience, please feel free to ask your questions in the chat box on the right-hand side of your screen. The speakers will be answering your questions at the end of the seminar. May I now call one of our keynote speakers, Dr. Martina Olbert, to share some meaning with us. Over to you, Dr. Olbert.
Thank you, Anuva, and big thanks to Suresh for asking me to speak at this wonderful event. It's kind of unusual for me in terms of the audience, because I'm more used to speaking, people at corporate events or managers or brand managers, CEOs. So having to go back to my more student years and sort of reinvigorate how I used to see the world and how I was thinking about the future opportunities is sort of a refreshing exercise for me as well. It's a little bit difficult for me to speak after, obviously, two people who represent big business and a university in Dubai, because I was asked by Suresh to deliver a little bit more authentic keynote to inspire you all, essentially, with my own journey, and to tell you how I did things in business as an entrepreneur and as an innovator and thinker, maker, inevitably, and so that you can relate or reflect, I guess, on the experiences that I've had as well. My keynote is, as I said, a bit, authentic. It's sort of like a stream of consciousness, just a talk. But I still want to highlight 3 key points. The first one is my own path to meaning and my own journey in business and in academia, and why I essentially decided to devote myself to this sort of niche in business. Then I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what is happening in the world right now in terms of big trends and how you are actually best positioned to capitalize on those trends in business, and what are the implications essentially for the emerging markets and growing global economies in terms of solving real world problems and understanding how you can uniquely create a value that no one else can, really. Okay, so the first point, my own path to meaning. I think I would have to go back very much to my own childhood. I was thinking about this a little bit more this morning, and I realized that ever since I was a child, I was very inquisitive myself. I was always asking the questions why, to the great joy of my parents and teachers and everybody else who I met along the way. And I always wanted to get to the fundamental essence of things and the meaning and the reasons behind why things were done the way that they were. And I think at the core of it, what I was trying to get to was that there has to be a reason why things are structured the way that they are around us, that everything that we see has some fundamental meaning or purpose to it, otherwise it wouldn't exist, right? So with this sort of inquisitive mindset, I went to my own journey to academia. I studied media studies, which is essentially a sociology of media and communication, looking at how people interact with media and technology and how they structure and create meaning in the world around us. And with this sort of very sophisticated and highbrow background in academia, I then was thrust into the market and in trying to make sense of how I can, with this sophisticated background, create any sort of value in marketing or in advertising or in PR communications. And I sort of went through a lot of different positions because I still didn't feel the right fit for me. And then I realized that there is a reason to it, why I really didn't feel that I had a place in the world. And the reason was that there really was no fundamental meaning to how things were done, because the way that business is done still predominantly today is that it's managed in silos. It fragmented the value where we were supposed to collaborate and cooperate and sort of aim towards a greater value creation in the world to impart our own essential values and make the world a better place and help people grow meaningfully through adoption of business. We sort of went the other way around, and we essentially managed the value out of the value creation because profit has become the value. And essentially the very consequence of that is that the world in the consumer realm, the consumer society realm, has become very much devoid of meaning. There is no fundamental reason to how things are done. And we have an overabundance of information, advertising, technology, services, products. But what we really are lacking is that fundamental essential value at the core of everything that we create. And with that in mind, I said, wait a minute, there is no one doing what I want to do. And that is precisely why I am the one who needs to do it. So that's why I set up Meaning Global as a sort of holistic strategic consultancy, working with brands and with businesses to put that meaning and essential human value back at the core of how we relate to value. What I really believe, and it's tied to the second point with what is happening in the world right now, what I really believe is that we need to create a sort of spiritual alignment in business to essentially align the products that we create with that fundamental essence that needs to be at the core, right? And coming back to the key topic of this event and what Suresh told me about many different innovators from 26 different countries, maybe there are even more, there's 30 countries all over Africa and the Middle East and India, really focused on solving the real world problems in order to add meaningful value to people's lives. This is exactly what it comes back to. We need to find a way to not just create more products and more technology or more innovation, but revisit the fundamental reasons why we want to create these in the first place and make sure that we are doing it so that we create meaningful value or add meaning to people's lives. One thing that I am seeing right now, or as we are witnessing around the world, is that especially in response to COVID and how it has completely shifted our focus and views from the external world inward, we are sort of seeing, I don't know how to say it lightly, a revolution of human consciousness, I would call it. And this has very fundamental effect on how brands and people interact. So essentially, with COVID, we were sort of put on pause. We were forced to reflect and venture inward. There was nowhere to go, right? In the lockdown, our lives, as we were sort of living them on autopilot, have been paused, and we needed to reflect and revisit why we are doing the things that we're doing a certain way, or what are our actual goals in life, or what do we want out of life, or who we are for that matter, or what are our values or fundamental essential needs, which is something that we completely neglected for decades. And with this in mind, we are now seeing the almost paradigm shift from brands and brands talking about themselves and about their brand purpose and sort of making people join them in their own aspirational worlds. We are seeing a shift from this sort of ideology more towards people and the real world of authentic human values. And brands are shifting their point of view to how can we actually connect with people in the context of their own everyday lives and identify with their own essential needs and what they see as valuable to them. And this is the interesting point, or the paradigm shift that we're seeing in branding, which is from purpose to meaning, from brands talking about themselves and what is important and meaningful to them, essentially towards what is meaningful to people and how brands can become the catalysts to create this meaningful value in people's lives. So coming back to you, students from 26 or 30 different countries around the world and representing the future of the growing global economies, I think that the key point here for you to realize is that the future leaders or the future innovators are not going to be, for the most part, the big corporations or the big companies that we see today. It's going to be the people with a fresh point of view and a fresh perspective who can pinpoint and see the real world problems and create solutions, right? That don't have the baggage or legacy mindset, because nothing is inhibiting you, nothing is stopping you from innovating. And especially from the point of view of being very culturally diverse or bringing a new set of values and perspectives, I think this is a phenomenal opportunity for you to innovate. And if if you're thinking, if I can do it or if I can innovate, I want you to think about this, and this is my final point. Steve Jobs was saying something about the fact that everything that you see around you has been created by people who are no smarter than you. And although it's very important, it's not the only thing to understand. the main point to understand is that everything that you see around you is the reflection of the past, right? Because the human thought precedes the reality. In order to innovate, you need to conceive an original thought that you then impart into the reality to essentially make it real. So I want you to understand that you absolutely don't need a permission to innovate. You can create anything that you want. It's all in your head. And your job now is to make it real and essentially create the future that you want to live in. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Olbert. That was very inspiring. May I now request Mr. Goodvertising, Mr. Thomas Kolster, to broadcast his thoughts over to the audience.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for the invitation to speak. And I'm definitely not a doctor. I'm pretty much one of those guys that, unfortunately, I'm going to say this out loud, Cedwyn, dropped out of university. So sorry for saying that. But it probably makes a point, though, that Cedwyn also touched on, which is about lifelong learning and critical thinking, because those are the skills. Why did I say yes to speaking to all of you out here? Because I really, truly believe that you are the future makers, that you are the ones who can turn things around. And I think you are growing up in a world that's quite different from the world that I grew up in, because you can quite easily start the business that you want. So if you're not happy with the status quo of business today, you can change it. You can fundraise your business quite easily. You can challenge a lot of the big brands that are out there. So you have every opportunity to do this today, and really no excuse. I'm going to talk a little bit about the power of communication and storytelling and why that is so essential, because one thing is having a great idea, and I see tons of great ideas out there, but it's really about being the ones that are most unique at telling why this idea matters to you and me and everyone out there. And as I said, I mean, I'm pretty much autodidact. I started it in the world of advertising and as a copywriter, and probably about a decade into my career, at an age of around 30, I really felt a disconnect between the work I was doing as an advertising guy and what was happening around me. You know, why was I selling cheeseburgers to people who are already way too fat? Why was I promoting cars in cities that were already way too congested? So that provoked me to write a book. That was my little crazy thing. Really not that crazy when you think about it. A copywriter writing a book, that's kind of almost there in the cards, right? But wrote a book called Goodvertising, which was essentially a book about the power of brands as a force for good. And this book was about, today, probably about 10 years old. But back then it was quite a novel concept. And for all of you out there, you might find that curious. But back then, the only thing more or less that businesses were talking about was things like price and convenience, or trying to be like a cool kind of lifestyle brand. But then there was this pivot, a pivot about brands talking about solving societal issues, about climate issues. And we all know, and which is also the urgency why I want to talk to you here today, all of you, is that you are that one generation that needs to fix all of these issues. That's the urgency right now, that you are that one generation. At that time, I didn't really think too much about those issues at all, but I just felt that internal disconnect. A lot of things have happened since then, because as Santosh touched upon in his opening, and Dr. Martina touched upon as well, purpose has become this thing that every brand is talking about. And we can see it today, how mainstream it has become. You can barely not, like Adidas have shoes made of ocean plastics. Nike is talking about their Flyknit shoes and how great they are. So there's so much talk about sustainability and solving the world, even the world of universities today. So having been a strong advocate for purpose and a true believer in the power of purpose, I kind of had to ask myself a couple of questions, a couple of reflections. And I want you to ask those questions to yourself as well. If you think about it, what brand, organization, or leader have actually truly created change in your life? Because this is about change, right? Because it's easy just to talk about change and say, hey, look at us, we're brand XYZ, we're doing this and that. But who has actually created that change in your life? And that forced me to write a second book called The Hero Trap. I'm going to share 3 points for you that I think might be really valuable for you when you get that great idea, that great startup idea, on how you can shape your story. Because one thing I see again and again when I see pitch decks from startups, and I see this from big brands as well, they always say, oh, you know what, we want to do this because we want to stand up and solve, things like ocean plastics, et cetera, et cetera. That's always the sort of founder stories. Or I hated this, so I had to change it. But as I said, when everybody is talking about this, when every brand, when every startup is trying to pitch itself as Gandhi or Mother Teresa, how do you actually really then stick out? So the key learning that I found was essentially that it's not about this resounding why. It's not about your values anymore. It's not just about your actions, because those won't cut it in the marketplace. It's actually about that really tangible change that you as a startup can do in someone's life. And you can ask yourself one pivotal question. You have to ask yourself this one pivotal question to create meaning. It is, who can you essentially help people become? How can you enable better lives? How can you spark new, fresh thinking? Think about how many brands that promise us to live healthier lives, but really not are delivering. So who can you help people become is really that one essential pivotal question, because it's not about pitching your startup or your brand as the hero, but it's really making every one of us heroes in our own lives. The second thing I want you to think about is, don't campaign at people. Don't tell people, oh gosh, we got the solution. People are intelligent. People want to take part. People are creative. So see if you can turn people's creativity and inspiration into a force for good. I interviewed an exciting startup guy, innovator called Dave Hackins, a young designer just out of university. And he created something called plastic chains. And it was so interesting to see that the idea about plastic chains was basically to create these do-it-yourself machines that could turn PET bottles into granulate, and then people create beautiful things. His mission was not to say, I'm going to solve anything. You and I together can solve a lot of things. So check out Dave Hackins and plastic chains. And don't campaign at people, but think about how you can turn their aspirations and dreams into exciting possibilities. And the last thing I want to touch about is impact. I know when you're a startup, the big thing you're thinking about is obviously your next round of money. Whatever is coming your way is good. But it's not just about the ROI. This is truly about impact as well. What is that tangible change? And think about how you can measure that, down to carbon emissions, down to healthier actions, or whatever that is. So we're at a real exciting turning point today, because big business is losing trust. And that is your opportunity. I interviewed one of the biggest FMCG companies, the global CMO of Procter & Gamble, Mark Pritchard, and he said to me, isn't it interesting that people don't trust us anymore? Even though we have 180 years in business, some of the best researchers and scientists employed, but people trust some guy making soap out of his mom's basement. And why do they do that? Because I think we connect on a human level. We want like-minded people to succeed. And I think you have every possibility to create the startup you want. You have every possibility to carve out an exciting career for yourself. When I started in advertising, I thought I would probably stick with copywriting for the rest of my life. Today, I'm writing books. I'm advising startup and impact businesses. I'm creating a career in sustainability and advising companies about it. And what I keep being passionate about is speaking to young people like you, because I'm not really the real change agent. My mission is for every one of you who I can push in a fresh direction. That makes me happy, and that's my little humble role in this in this talk here today. So I wish you the best of luck going forward. Remember those 3 key points when you go into the Hackcellence. Stories are key. There are tons of great ideas out there. Don't pretend to be a hero. but really think about how you can turn people into the heroes. Don't think about you have all the solutions yourself or campaign at people, but use people's aspirations and creativity to create excitement. And lastly, don't just think about the money, but really think about how you can measure the impact. So if you want to change the world, that change really begins with you. So thank you so much for listening in. And I do hope you want to follow my mission. You can look me up on my name. And for those of you who actually start following me, I will share 3 free books with you, because for those of you who want to know more about impact, that's a great way to start. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Kolster. That was really purposeful. May I now invite Mr. Ivan Fernandez to share his journey and experience. After this, we'll be throwing open the virtual floor to all of your questions. Thank you all for sending them in. I encourage you to ask any more questions that you.
Thank you very much, Anova, and good afternoon. It's always a challenge, to be on the back of some very eminent speakers before me. And I know it's tough to keep the engagement of the audience going under such tough challenges. For those who do not know me, I'm based in Dubai. I've been a serial entrepreneur for the last 3 decades, and have been fortunate enough to set up during different times in certain companies that really had a need of a particular pain for a particular industry that we really set out to solve and make it big and be impactful to the society. Especially in the last 10 years, I have been working more among the younger generation, trying to inspire the younger generation to be entrepreneurs rather than trying to find a job after the graduation. For those you guys know, I'm one of the founders of TAI in Dubai, a past president, and currently I'm the director of mentoring for TAI in Dubai. I also founded another entrepreneur organization called Canara Entrepreneurs to promote entrepreneurial journeys for youngsters coming from the west coast of Karnataka. So today, obviously, my real theme would be how to get you guys who are on the border, who are still thinking, should we take this risk of being an entrepreneur, or should we, as soon as we graduate out of college, find a secure job? If you have some thoughts on, which side of the equation you are, probably the next 10 minutes you could, think over some of the points where I would go with some of my personal journeys, my personal experiences, give some context to what I say, and probably help you guys. To be fair, today probably the global economy probably is at the best stage for entrepreneurs. Today if you look, that value of the global economy for entrepreneurial ecosystem is around 3 trillion in value. That's like the GDP of United Kingdom in G7. Today 7 out of 10 companies today are in technology. Last year, actually we saw, I think, very close to 300 billion in venture capital investments around the world. So absolute right time as far as the timing is concerned. When I speak to young entrepreneurs, I usually ask them this question: what made you choose entrepreneurship? Several reasons I get from them. Some of them being like, I did not like the 9-to-5 work culture. I did not like mundane jobs. I did not want to report to somebody else. I come from a business family, and so forth. But one single reason that I heard from a number of them was, I was inspired by another successful entrepreneur. Seeing someone you know, especially among your network, among your family, among your friends, growing from nothing to becoming a successful business person is enough inspiration for you guys to jump. They think, they have the potential to find the next idea and change the lives of millions. Are you one among them? If so, I believe you are today in the right place. However, the thought has to be validated, and you have to be very clear with the objectives and be ready to take the challenges and make it happen. Your patience will always be tested, as well as your resilience. I'm sure today, these days, you see a lot of news, especially in developing countries like India, on companies becoming unicorns with huge investments coming their way. Many young entrepreneurs dream that that should be their main objective. My suggestion to you guys is don't focus on just being a unicorn. Look at it in this perspective. Would a chef jump in joy when he buys his ingredients? No. He will wait until the dish is ready and released by his customers. So you need to think of your exit, and exit only should be your time for celebration. Your entrepreneurial journey started as early as you can, and this is your best time. For the simple reason, when you're early, it's easy to fail and learn from those experiences and probably continue. Later on, you'll have more complexities because you'll be looking for stability for yourselves, your families, your energy levels probably will start going down. You will not be able to bear the same risk as what you could do today. Your health may not be able to sustain your entrepreneurial rigors and so forth. So start early as you can. As for me, I come from a very low middle class family. My family just couldn't even sustain my education, forget helping me how to venture on my own to be an entrepreneur. But internally, in my heart of heart, I wanted to be an entrepreneur from day one. And I did try as soon as I graduated out of engineering to be one. But soon found that just a good idea with no ecosystem is as good as fish without oxygen outside of water. I decided that probably I need to get some of that ecosystem support and experience. I was fortunate. I applied for jobs and I got into one of the best institutions in India, the Baba Atomic Research Center. I joined there as a scientist. And I started working on artificial intelligence and image processing in the 1980s. That helped me build certain real good skills early on, which I later on used to develop signature verification for banks, which in the 80s was never thought of by anybody that it would be possible. This actually put me into the banking world. I joined the banks. I worked and basically automated a lot of technology into banking in the early 90s, and I started getting the sort of reputation that my skills were really required. And in 1995, I said, this is the time. I now have the experience. I now have probably also earned some money. And more importantly, I built a network of peers who knew what my real skills were. They knew what I was capable of delivering. And so when I put this thought process in the bank that I used to work for at that time, I was ably supported by most of my colleagues and even my bosses, who not only supported me to start, but also said they want to invest in me. And a few of my colleagues even were ready to give up their careers in the bank and come and join me in my startup. So that was the first real motivation that I got within the ecosystem, that wasn't prevalent then, but is well prevalent today. Obviously, life is not very smooth for an entrepreneur, and it wasn't for me too, And as a startup in the 90s, going after banks was not easy. Startups were not accepted. There was no real financial fintech ecosystem. We had to be pestering the banks by the products and solutions, differentiating it from our competition. Our competition were all the bigwigs, the IBMs of the world, NCR, Mises, TCS, you couldn't compete with them in the marketing bandwidth that they had. You couldn't compete with them with the personal caliber that they had, but you could compete with them on the skills of being ahead of them. And that's what ultimately started convincing our customers that we were a niche organization able to transform the complete ecosystem within the banking industry. Now, once they were convinced, they started becoming our brand ambassadors, and they started talking to the competition that you guys are so big, but you guys have to really follow these guys and see how they are implementing things, how they are transforming it, how they're making it productive to us, how they're really taking it down to the customer and making the life of the customer easier, and so forth. Within 3 years, we started becoming a threat for the competition. And when it's a threat, obviously one of the things that happens is they try either to break you or to be part of you. For us, two of the large conglomerates from UK and Europe obviously put a bid on us, and we were acquired in 1998. When I started, did I believe that in 3 years I would get a large acquisition? Would I become a millionaire? No. I only believed that there was a problem and I had the solution, and I, with my team, had the capability to do it better than anybody else. That's what you need to have. You just need to believe in yourself. You just need to be that what you can do, nobody else can do it better than you. Today there are hundreds of such stories. So there's nothing, great about it. But look at you. And for you today is the best time because you have nothing to lose. You probably have very little money today. I'm sure you don't have mortgages or car payments or house expenses or other responsibilities. For me, when I ultimately started, I was around 32 years. I was married, I had a child, but I still said, this is my time. I need to do it now or never. And obviously, we had to give up some of our lifestyles. I had to convince my wife that she has to give up her luxuries for some time. And I also had to warn her that, in case we failed, we could be back in square one. These are part and parcel of the risks that we take. Fortunately, we never had to look back. So, my dear friends, when you look at it, look at what challenges the world faces today and take one of the problems. Try to solve a major problem if you can, because whether the problem is major or minor, the time, the effort, the resources required to resolve it is more or less the same. And time is one element that you can never get back. I hear a lot of my young entrepreneurs saying, oh, but I am not all the talented or gifted. How can I be successful? My words to them are, you don't necessarily need to be talented. Sometimes you may never know your talent until you try it. But one thing you have, that is your effort. You put in your effort into your thought and make it happen. That will determine your success. Also, the fear of getting into entrepreneurship, because the success rate in entrepreneurship, if you look at statistics, is pretty low. It's still in single digits. So a lot of youngsters are afraid to fail. Now, again, to me, failure is not the end of the road. It may be just a small bend in a journey. It's a learning experience. So do not bother. Just focus on your work, learn from your failures, and continue working to make your goals happen. So, but remember one thing, you can fail 10 times. You need to be successful only once. So, it's like in cricket. A bowler gets hit for sixes and we think he's a bad bowler, but he needs just one good ball to hit at the wicket and suddenly the match can turn. So never think that, failure is, something that you should be afraid of. But what is important in today's world is what you think today. You cannot keep it in a book and say that I can do it anytime. Things change very drastically. So even if you know something today and you want to start on it, you probably will have to keep on iterating it every other day or every other month or every other year. You should be knowing what the world is going through. And if it's something that is affecting your business, you should be the first one to react and then make sure that you comply and go over it rather than we succumb to it. There are so many stories of good companies going down the drain just because they have not reacted and taken proper actions on time. I will give you my own story. My second startup, it was started when Dubai Internet City was born in 2000. In 1998, after my first exit, I started writing the business plan for mobile banking and payments. Mobile phones were very new at that time, but I thought that that would be the next big thing. The mobile world will rule, which is true today, correct? But unfortunately, we started off, and those of you who recollect, 2000 was the year of the dot-com crash that brought the IT industry into its knees. Most of the well-reputed organizations even struggled. So startups like us were just bleeding. All my advisors at that time told me, Ivan, just shut down, cut your losses. You cannot survive this wave. I believed that mobility and mobile will rule the world. I pursued against all recommendations. We started with the feature phone. We moved into Palm operating system, which was the only intelligent device that was there. Then to Nokia communicator. Then came the BlackBerry, and in 2005, 2006, the iPhone and the Android. It took us over 5 years to even break even. But then once we did it and the market came back, it was a totally different story. So you will get all these challenges as you go ahead. The power to sustain will determine your final outcome. In fact, I can give you a very related story of what happened during COVID with one of my portfolio companies. This is a young girl who came to Dubai and pitched for an idea in 2019. I met her probably for 30 minutes, and I was so convinced with the passion and her understanding of the problem that I decided to back her up. She wanted to automate the manufacturing industry in developing countries, and she chose Kenya to start with. Obviously, once she started going well with Kenya, she started looking what could be the next country, and she had already pinpointed on Mexico having similar problems that she could solve. She had planned everything, and on March 17, 2020, she was on a flight from Nairobi to Mexico City via San Francisco. When she landed in San Francisco, the world shut down due to COVID. She couldn't move forward to Mexico City to continue, neither did she return to Nairobi. So most of the time, entrepreneurs under such circumstances do not know how to react, what to do, how to take this forward. She never took it negatively. The moment she was stuck in San Francisco, she knew she would be stuck there for some time. She used that opportunity to check if there are similar challenges in the United States for manufacturing companies, although we consider the United States to be well developed. And she was surprised that there are so many companies which need a solution. And she sat there, she iterated a full business model. She started taking everything online. She started couriering all the hardware that is required. She started preparing online tutorials to self-install those equipment, get them onboarded through the cloud, and she onboarded over 75 manufacturing companies last year in the United States and got a revenue of more than $1 million during this time. It was such a positive action that during the same period, some of the venture capitalists in the United States found her to be really thriving in the lockdown situation. And just 2 weeks back, one of the well-known VCs led an initiative to back her up and fund her for a Series A investment. So that's the sort of capability and sustainability, that you require in you to be really successful. So my friends, I do not know, are you guys ready to take similar challenges? If you are, I think this is a great opportunity in my view to get your ideas validated. Hackcellence will provide you the platform. It will provide you the mentoring that is required. There are several mentoring organizations today that will help you on your way. Take their help and try to reduce the pitfalls. Dream for the stars. Spread your wings and fly. You never know what you can do until you try. I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Fernandez. Now the motivation generated by our eminent roster of speakers, we're going to jump into the questions that were asked. Question from Bassam Al-Hindi. This is directed to Dr. Martina Olbert. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Who is it meant to impact and influence? And do you recommend that there are important questions for individuals and organizations to introspect on?
Sorry, Anuva, you froze in the middle. I didn't quite get the whole thing.
I'm going to repeat the question.
Okay.
The question is, why am I doing what I am doing? Who is it meant to impact and influence? What do you recommend are important questions that should be asked to individuals, entrepreneurs, organizations to introspect on?
Oh, that is an excellent question. Okay, thank you for that. So one of the key points in this, as I was speaking about this paradigm shifting from brands and businesses being really preoccupied with themselves and their own purposes more towards humanity and understanding what is the essential value or the meaningful value that they add to people's lives. This is a really interesting moment. And I think as we are venturing inward as people and understanding what we want out of life and who we are and what our values are to essentially make our lives fulfilled and self-actualized, brands, in order to be relevant and move on the trajectory along with us to essentially remain profitable and valuable, they have to go through the same exercise. So I would say it would be very much the existential questions, if you will, and some of these were exactly as you mentioned at the beginning. Who am I? What do I want to impart in this world? What is the essence of the brand? What are the fundamental values? But not to guide the brand image. That's what purpose got it all wrong. It's not about this aspirational world of brand to sort of put on a face and then seem like, right, we have all these great values, but it's just for the image, just for communication, just for advertising purposes. We need to find a way to realize what these fundamental values are and then embed them at the core of the brand, at the core of the business, to essentially inform real world actions and behaviors so that the brand and the business become one entity. And that's how we create integrity and true sustainability in any business. So I would say where the brand essence meets the human essence, that is the spiritual alignment that I was talking about.
Thank you for that. I'm going to read the next question from Suparna Bhatt. This is Cedwyn Fernandez. What can higher education institutions do in context to deeply synergize learning and education? Right now, they seem to be poles apart.
Sorry, I didn't get the whole question.
Sorry, I'm going to please repeat the question again. What can higher institutions do in the current context to deeply synergize learning and education? Right now, they seem to be poles apart.
I would really not agree. I mean, there are institutions and there are institutions. I think many of the institutions focus on the on the learning aspect, which is the most important aspect, rather than just by rote sort of education that takes place in some schooling systems. But I think the some of the essences of a good higher education system is where students are encouraged to meet learning outcomes, through different aspects of testing these. So it's not only a final exam, and where if you have got a good memory capability, you score good marks and stuff like that, but also about the entire student experience, the soft skills which you learn at an education institution, how to get along with people, how to work as a group, how to think of new ideas, how just not to take what is given to you without any questioning. And so I think a lot of institutions, I agree that maybe about 10 to 15 years back, there was a lot of focus on just one way imparting of knowledge, or the syllabi. But I think there is so much of interaction between the lecturers, the students, and the feedback from the students, and the supportive learning culture, which are nurtured in many higher education institutions.
Thank you. There's another question for you. Do you think it's better for entrepreneurs to start taking a problem better, or is it a way to add a meaning to people's lives? There's
my personal philosophy is everything is baby steps. If you are going to wait for for a big impactful idea, it will come. But I think you need to take the first step. And so I think, as Mr. Ivan has been sharing his story, you have to be a serial entrepreneur. You have to keep getting along, start, maybe not succeed, take some learnings from that, move on to the next idea. And I mean, I don't mean just go into many things at the same time, but and that is why, if I'm not mistaken, the average age of a successful entrepreneur is over 30, and not somebody who's necessarily just 18, 20. Yes, there are the exceptionals, but that is something which are few and far between. So it just shows that a person who wants to be an entrepreneur, starts off. Many of them start up at university. Not all their projects just succeed, but I think if you just keep postponing it, you will life's responsibilities start coming onto you, and then you may not take the plunge. So it's easy to get in. It's better to get into the entrepreneurial mindset at an early age, at a smaller level of risk, and then build from there, and success will eventually come. I just want to add one more thing, which Thomas had talked about dropping out of university. That's great. I always tell students, you have got a great entrepreneurial idea, and it's all about the opportunity cost. If your opportunity cost of being somewhere else is much more than a university education, then please go ahead and do that. So whether it's Michael Jordan or Sachin Tendulkar or Bill Gates dropping out of Harvard because the opportunity cost of staying in Harvard was far more too high compared to what idea he had. So I don't think a university education is the only way to succeed. And if you are confident about your idea, you can do it at university. But if it takes a lot of your time, and it's not about and you cannot manage both, go ahead and do it. And, but I think to a vast majority, the university education gives you the conceptual skills, the soft skills to succeed as you go along.
Thank you so much for that. The next question is for Mr. Santosh. More students coming out of universities and colleges, shunning the corporate world to become entrepreneurs. What can organizations do or change to create entrepreneurial ecosystem that offers adequate psychological safety for expression of their thoughts or ideas?
Sorry, Anuva, your question, your volume was not very clear. Can you repeat that again?
Shall I repeat? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Do you see more and more students coming out of universities and colleges world to become entrepreneurs? What can an organization do to create entrepreneurial ecosystem within that offers adequate psychological safety for expression of their thoughts and ideas?
Well, Hackcellence is the answer for this, right? It's a complete 360 which offers all the solutions. We're just not creating a competition or a pitch. We train you to that entrepreneurial journey. We teach you all the finer points of how to be a successful entrepreneur. It's not just a pitch competition. So get actively involved in this Hackcellence competition. And I'm sure by end of this in October, you'll be glad you are part of it.
Thank you so much for that. Ask the next question from Professor Kilu Sylvester for Mr. Thomas Kolster. It is said that digital natives and millennial generation are more responsive to brands and companies that are doing good for the community and the planet. Is that a big incentive for young startups to tap into?
On the screen.
Mr. Thomas? Okay, I'm going to move back to this. The next question, Fernandez. You have been an entrepreneur all through and through. What would your two to students who have an entrepreneurial bug in them?
Excellent question, Anova.
Yeah.
I said this, my story too. Like heart of heart, right from day one, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So if you have that entrepreneurial bug, whatever happens to you, however difficult it is, ultimately you will become one. And I'm a good example. I told you, my parents are uneducated. My father is a driver. So I had no support system at all to be an entrepreneur. I had no support system even to actually get educated. My parents did not know what exactly I was doing. I used to earn my daily living by working as a daily laborer, doing my holidays to earn my money to get into college. So you understand, once the bug hits you, doesn't matter what it takes, how many people tell it is not possible, you will not succeed, don't do it, just ignore the noise. Listen to your conscience. And if you fail, doesn't matter. I said as soon as I got out of college, I had a great idea, and the idea is today wonderful. It's the cable network. I thought of it in the 80s that satellite television will become the next wave when microwave was. So theoretically, I knew what was going to happen. But could I make it happen? I couldn't, because I did not have the financial muscle. I did not have the network of support that I required to make it big. Nobody would believe in me. Who was I? To put their money into me. So I learned that lesson, in my first implementation that I did. And then I said, I need to get some of these things done. That is why I got into find a job, not because I wanted some safe salary or something like that, but I wanted to be part of that ecosystem. I wanted to build that, and wherever I went, even my first job, BRC is probably the best research organization at least in India, but probably one of the best in the world too. Because today we are talking about artificial intelligence, machine learning, and image processing. I am talking about doing it, working on it in my research in the 80s. So you think about how early it was, but I did not think that I would always stay there in a safe, secure environment and retire in BRC. Never did it hit my mind. I worked as if there is no tomorrow. I used to use the supercomputers and work on them day in and day out. My colleagues used to say, this guy is working as if he'll become the chairman of BRC tomorrow. You will only know the bureaucracy after a few years when they deny him promotions. And there will be people who put you down. Always. Don't look at them. Look at how much you can amass to make your entrepreneurial journey possible. So go against the windmill. You're like, even in my second job, I said I used to work, as the head of technology for a bank, and this bank, the chairman was Prince Walid bin Talal, who you guys know today. Who is he? Even then, he was the largest shareholder of Citicorp worldwide. And I was his technical advisor. When I decided to quit, everybody told me, you are a fool. You are the blue-eyed boy of the prince. He gives you everything, and you're thinking of quitting and going and doing a startup. Are you mad? Even my own father, he did not come and see me for 1 year after I left the job and came back and started my first startup in Bangalore. Because he couldn't understand, he could not conceive, because life was totally different for them the moment I started working, and they thought that if I do this, they would probably go back to the same regressive lifestyle that they had earlier. So if you have that bug, I'll tell you, it doesn't matter what comes your way, you will find a way to make it happen and you will succeed. And that's why I give you the example of Lauren in 2017 when she got stuck in San Francisco, what she did. So if we can do it, you guys can do it. So you will never be able to get good sleep until and unless you solve that problem that is within you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ivan. This will conclude our session today. One of our speakers, as well as all of the guests that have attended the event. If you keep following us on our social media platforms as well as the website, you will get answers to more of your questions. Since a lot of the questions were from potential participants and we were unable to answer them, please do find answers on how to enter, the rules of the contest, prizes, intellectual rights on your property, all on the website. In case you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to us on any of our social platforms or directly on the email ID that's available on our website. Till our next, being our very best. Thank you so much, and thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Ivan, Cedwyn, Santosh, Martina, Thomas, Amir, and the entire team. Thanks a ton, and we look forward to taking this journey together forward. It's all about the power of collaboration and cooperative marketing, and so we'll continue to stay in touch and soak in the energy and the inspiration and the motivation that all of you have so gracefully ushered in. Thanks once again. Connect soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.